Hey, economic warriors, it's your host, the boss of busting bad policy, here to shred through the latest headlines, dismantle government mismanagement, and expose the clown show that's tanking our economy. Buckle up, because today, we're diving into the March 2025 U.S. jobs report, a shiny little snapshot of a labor market teetering on the edge of a tariff-induced dumpster fire. And guess who's holding the matches? That's right, your friendly neighborhood policymakers. Let's break this down, from the surface-level fluff to the deep, dark economic abyss beneath, and trust me, it's gonna get spicy. Alright, folks, let's start with the surface-level spin the mainstream media loves to peddle. According to the latest jobs report, U.S. hiring in March 2025 was healthy, with non-farm payrolls growing by an estimated 140,000 jobs, down slightly from February's 151,000. The unemployment rate? Holding steady at a historically low 4.1%. Sounds like a dream, right? A stable labor market, a shining beacon of economic resilience, and a testament to the genius of government policy. Cue the confetti cannons. But hold up, don't pop the champagne just yet. Because if you squint past the headlines, you'll see the cracks forming in this so-called stable labor market. And guess what's about to pour gasoline on those cracks? President Trump's shiny new across-the-board tariffs, announced just this week, March 31st to April 6, 2025. That's right, folks, while the media's busy slapping gold stars on the labor market, the real story is the economic reckoning looming on the horizon. And spoiler alert, it's not gonna be pretty. Let's get to the juicy part first, tariffs. Oh, tariffs, the government's favorite way to flex its muscles while simultaneously shooting itself in the foot. For those of you new to the boss economics world circus, tariffs are essentially taxes on imported goods, designed to protect domestic industries. Sounds noble, right? Except, in practice, they're about as protective as a paper umbrella in a hurricane. Trump's latest tariff announcement is a doozy, slapping hefty levies on global trading partners, with rates reportedly higher than anyone expected. Companies like Nike and Target are already sounding the alarm, warning of higher prices for consumers. And here's the kicker, higher prices don't just hurt your wallet, they hurt the entire economy. When consumers face higher costs, they cut back on spending. When spending slows, businesses pull back on hiring and investment. And when businesses pull back, well, welcome to Recession City, population, you. Don't take my word for it, let's look at the data. According to a 2024 study by the National Bureau of Economic Research, NBR, the Trump-era tariffs of 2018 to 2019 reduced U.S. GDP by 0.2% and cost American consumers $40 billion annually in higher prices. Fast forward to 2025, and the stakes are even higher. Citigroup economists, led by Andrew Hollenhorst, estimate that these new tariffs could shave off another 0.5% of GDP growth in 2025 alone, with consumer spending projected to drop by 1.2% as prices rise. And that's if the tariffs aren't scaled back, which, given the current political climate, is about as likely as me winning a Nobel Peace Prize for my diplomatic language. But wait, there's more. The uncertainty alone is enough to send businesses into a tailspin. As UBS economists, led by Jonathan Pingle, pointed out, the employment impacts may start slowly but will build following the upstream reaction to firms realizing slower consumer spending, on top of weaker business fixed investment. Translation, companies aren't just worried about higher costs, they're terrified of the unknown. And when businesses get scared, they don't hire, they don't invest, and they sure as heck don't expand. So, congratulations, government geniuses. You've managed to take a labor market that was chugging along just fine and threaten it with a tariff-induced slowdown. Slow clap for you. Now, let's pivot to another government masterpiece, shrinking the federal workforce. According to the March 2025 jobs report, forecasters are expecting a drop in government payrolls of 15,000 to 25,000 jobs. Not a huge deal, right? Wrong. This is just the appetizer. The main course is coming later in 2025, when the government's plan to gut the federal workforce really kicks into gear. BNP Paribas economist Andrew Husby predicts a total drop of 125,000 federal jobs this year, but here's the kicker, even he admits there's high uncertainty around that number, thanks to court challenges and reinstatements. Let's break this down. On one hand, shrinking the federal workforce sounds like a win for efficiency, less bureaucracy, less waste, right? But here's the reality, those 125,000 jobs aren't just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're people who pay rent, buy groceries, and keep the economy humming. When you fire them, you're not just cutting waste, you're cutting consumer spending, which accounts for nearly 70% of U.S. GDP, according to the Bureau of Economic Analysis, BEA. And here's the irony, while the government's busy slashing its own workforce, it's also slapping tariffs on private sector businesses, making it harder for them to pick up the slack. It's like a boxer punching themselves in the face while simultaneously stepping on a rake. Genius-level strategy, folks. Okay, let's give credit where credit is due. Amidst this economic dumpster fire, there's one bright spot: healthcare. The sector has been a consistent job creation machine, accounting for over a third of payroll gains in February 2025 and expected to lead the pack again in March. Why? Because of demographic forces, as Royal Bank of Canada economist Carrie Freestone puts it, namely, an aging population that needs more doctors, nurses, and caretakers. But here's the problem: healthcare can't save the economy alone. Sure, it's a growth engine, but it's not immune to the broader economic fallout. Higher tariffs mean higher costs for medical supplies and equipment, which are often imported. According to the Peterson Institute for International Economics, tariffs on Chinese goods alone could increase healthcare costs by $1.5 billion annually, putting pressure on hospitals and clinics. And when costs rise, guess who pays? That's right, you, the consumer, through higher premiums and out-of-pocket expenses. So, while healthcare might be the MVP of job creation right now, it's not a magic bullet. Relying on one sector to prop up the entire economy is like trying to win a basketball game with a single player. Sooner or later, the tariffs, the uncertainty, and the government's mismanagement will drag even healthcare down. Alright, folks, let's zoom out and look at the big picture. Economists are already sounding the alarm. Trump's tariffs, combined with the government's workforce cuts and the broader uncertainty, are increasing the odds of a recession in 2025. High-frequency economics economists Carl Weinberg and Mary Chen put it bluntly: the March 2025 jobs report is unlikely to show a breaking labor market. But that is no assurance that a sharp rise in unemployment and a drop in payrolls will not follow yesterday's tariff announcements. Beware April 2025. And they're not alone. A January 2025 survey by the National Association for Business Economics, NABE, found that 60% of economists now predict a recession by the end of 2025, up from 45% just 3 months ago. Why? Because tariffs don't just hurt consumers, they hurt businesses, jobs, and global trade. The World Trade Organization, WTO, estimates that global trade volume could shrink by 2.5% in 2025 if these tariffs stay in place, which would ripple through the US economy like a tsunami. But here's the real kicker: this recession risk isn't some unavoidable act of God. It's a direct result of government policy that prioritizes political posturing over economic stability. Tariffs might make for great campaign slogans, but they're a disaster for the real economy. And the government's plan to shrink the federal workforce? It's just pouring salt on the wound. So, there you have it, folks, a labor market that looks stable on the surface but is sitting on a powder keg of government mismanagement. Tariffs are threatening to tank consumer spending and business investment. Federal workforce cuts are undermining economic demand. And while healthcare is holding strong, it can't save us from the broader fallout. This isn't just an economic story, it's a political one. The government's obsession with short-term wins, like tariffs and budget cuts, is setting us up for long-term pain. And who pays the price? You, the taxpayer, the worker, the consumer. Meanwhile, the policymakers responsible for this mess will be sipping champagne at their next fundraiser, patting themselves on the back for protecting the economy. Here at Boss Economics World, we don't sugarcoat the truth. The March 2025 jobs report might look rosy, but it's a mirage. The real story is the economic storm brewing on the horizon, a storm fueled by tariffs, uncertainty, and government incompetence. So, to the powers that be, I say, congratulations, you've done it again. You've taken a functioning economy and driven it straight into the ditch. And to you, our viewers, whether you're an everyday person worried about your finances or a finance pro trying to make sense of this madness, stay sharp, stay informed, and keep fighting the good fight. Until next time, this is the boss of busting bad policy, signing off. Smash that like button, subscribe, and let's keep calling out the economic nonsense together.